Henrik, good to see you here online on Zoom.
Likewise.
And for the audience here, I am today hosting a short interview with Mr. Henrik Slothuus Hansen of Ocean7, the Danish-owned ship owner from their headquarters in Denmark. And first of all, Henrik, thank you for being able to join us.
My pleasure.
Could you tell me a little bit about the history of Ocean7? It seems to me that the name implies you sail on the 7 seas. Is that correct?
We absolutely do, and everything in between. 17, Ocean7 joined forces with Icon ship, and we sort of have expanded since then, going from having a couple of offices in Denmark, in Germany, in Spain and Italy, to now having also an office in the Netherlands, in Oslo, in Bergen, in Norway as well, in Dubai, in Kuala Lumpur, in Tokyo, and in Shanghai. In Beijing. Mm-hmm. But the offices in Asia are under a joint venture with United Heavy Lift, so they are named United 07.
Okay, so that means basically, how many ships do you have, let's say, that are your own tonnage?
We have presently about 9 or 10 ships that are managed. That means we don't actually own them. They are owned by a variety of German and Dutch ship owners, and we manage them commercially. In addition to that, we have typically anywhere from 10 to 15 time-chartered vessels for short periods, being as little as a month or 45 days up to several years.
Okay, that's interesting. How do you view the project cargo market? There's a, of course, the COVID crisis has meant a lot of delays for oil and gas is down at the moment, but then there's a lot of renewables. What do you see looking at your fleet? Is it difficult to find project cargoes at the moment?
I'd say it's pretty much the same as it has always been. There's plenty of cargo around, and it's always a question of supply and demand. Pricing is the issue. When we go back about a year, everybody was very concerned with the transition to IMO 2020 rules as far as fuel oil or bunker oil was concerned, and that proved to be sort of slightly overestimated. There was no dip in the supply of cargo at the time, and it's our observation, at least, that there has been very little change in the market overall as far as project cargoes are concerned. There is still, and you have seen that, I've seen from some of your interviews and video reports from Sweden, for instance, that there's a huge increase in transportation of renewables, primarily windmill blades, tower sections, and so on and so forth, and that seems to be on the constant up and up. And I think that of course underpins the entire project market. So if there is a constant base of other cargoes, the constant increase in the renewable section will mean that there's also a growing overall demand for project cargo transportation.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good. Henrik, a question that comes to mind, as you know, I also represent a number of project freight forwarders around the world in the 2 networks that I'm chairing. Let's say that, take an example. There's a project freight forwarder based in Copenhagen. He has a project to move into, let's say, Australia, and he contacts you for a quote. At the same time, another 2 forwarders contact you for the same project. How is your policy, A, towards the freight forwarders, and B, if you get the same inquiry from several forwarders, how do you deal with that? Do you have the same type of policy or philosophy, or can the forwarder be sure that you will not contact the shipper directly? Do you protect the ones who come to you with the cargo?
Firstly, I would start with your last question as far as contacting the producers, the shippers directly. We have no interest in that. If we take something very straightforward as renewables, I think in all fairness, the demands on freight forwarders as far as financing transportation is concerned are such that virtually no ship owner or very few ship owners would be able to meet these requirements. That's typically current month plus 30 days plus whatever, and we can't do that as ship owners or ship operators, or on behalf of our ship owners as managers. So going from a purely financial perspective, that would not be viable for us.
Okay.
Secondly, we have little or no interest in maintaining sort of a end-to-end direct sourcing with the producers or manufacturers or shippers, simply because that is there's a lot of interim documentation work, preparations, and so on and so forth that we simply are not equipped to handle, and that's something which freight forwarders generally are so much better at doing than we are. Okay. So we wouldn't be doing that. Okay. So, as far as receiving the
I just want to say, so bottom line, just to make it clear for our viewers, you come to if anyone comes to Ocean7 with an inquiry, it will be protected and it'll be treated as an independent and clean inquiry to which you will respond, correct?
Of course, yes. Of course, that's correct.
Okay.
I think the other issue is, of course, we can't always be certain that a producer or a shipper will not contact us directly. We have an example. This is not exactly project cargo, but there's a European and Asian-based steel manufacturer who sort of has a board of brokers or panel of brokers they use, which means that the same order is circulated by, say, 10, 15, 20 brokers, and at the same time the producer, the manufacturer, contacts a large number of shippers directly, or a large number of ship owners directly. And in that case, it would rarely be something we dealt with directly, but it would not be coming from freight forwarders, it would be coming from brokers. And the life of a broker is pretty tough as it is, of course. Okay.
It's very clear. No, but I appreciate your candor on this, and certainly we will recommend Ocean7 wherever we can, and you are high on the priority list whenever somebody comes to me for guidance on this. So good to have that clear. I will not spend too much time on this interview on the more shipping matters. Just finally here, rounding this up, could you just give a couple of minutes of introduction to yourself, Henrik? What's your own background in shipping? I mean, you've been around for many years, you've been abroad, I believe. Give our listeners and viewers a couple of minutes on who are you?
Yeah, I'll try and do it in a couple of minutes. I've been in shipping since 1987, where I started with the good old Maersk AP Moller as a trainee. Spent my first 9 years with them doing IT, doing operations, doing shipbrokering. In 1996, I joined a Russian ship owner in London. From there on, worked with a variety of operators. I've been shortly involved in port operations as well, primarily in Africa, but with headquarters in London. Moved to Asia to work for a project cargo project cargo carrier, project cargo ship owner back in 2001. Spent 8 years there for that company and a couple of others. Came home to Denmark in 2009 and have worked in Svendborg in Denmark since then. Essentially, still in the same with some of the same ships that I worked with 11 years ago when I came back, but of course with the much larger and much wider scope that Ocean7 presents these days. In the last 10 years, as you know, Bo, I've sort of decided to stray a little bit from the plain ship owning and brokering side and into the more legal area legal area of the business, and training to be a lawyer at the same time. And as we all know, there is so much going on in business that simply pertains to insurance issues, to contract issues, and so forth, and so on and so forth. So I found that that's very much an area where I can perhaps specialize. So that's pretty much what there is to say about me.
That's a fantastic background. You certainly have the right tools in your toolbox to become a very efficient lawyer. And we all know that we all know nowadays that lawyers are very good at sending out invoices before they actually do anything. But I'm sure you will gain a lot of business in that new career of yours. But listen, Henrik, I want to say again, thank you very much for joining this. I will now push a stop button to the recording so we can then relax. And to all our viewers and listeners around the world, I want to raise my hand and say thank you very much for joining. And thank you to you, Henrik. Good to have you. Goodbye. Goodbye.